rather than trying to gradually walk y'all into the point of this commentary, I'll just give you my point of contention right off the top. And I'm going to do that by trying to recall a video that I saw on YouTube maybe in 2010. I wish I could show it to y'all, but I don't have it, so I'm just going to have to tell you what I saw. Cops pulled this car over, and they pulled guns and dope from this car. They also pulled out 3 people from this car. And when I noticed what was going on, I went to type my comment, and everybody and their mama was already on it. You know how you go to post a comment and you see 5, 6, 7, 15 people done already said what you was going to say? It was like that on this comment board. You pulled 3 people out of that car. 2 of them handcuffed and made to sit on the ground with their legs crossed, while the other one was standing there with their arms folded. 3 people pulled from that car that was filled with guns and dope. 3 people. 2 males, 1 female also pulled from that car. But guess which one wasn't handcuffed? Right, the female. Even though she was the driver. Now, only 2 possible scenarios there. Either the cops don't see females as a threat, or she's an informant. The informant thing is, it's possible, but not to me, because even if you're an informant, they'll handcuff you too so that the other ones don't get suspicious. And listen, the driver of a car like that, they will most definitely get handcuffed. But not in this case. Now, BA. Buck Angel is BA, the one I was talking about in the other video. Remember, the ones of you who seen it, I only said the initials of the person that I planned on responding to. It was Buck Angel. That's BA. And my problem with her is I said her. I said her. Why did I say her? Well, because Buck is a chick, a female, a woman. And not just word of mouth either. I seen the pussy. I seen it back when Buck was responding to a couple of dudes that was sitting there in their video together. And they was talking about it, and they was throwing dirt. And something that they thought was dirt was they said that she did porn. Buck stops the video and said, yeah, I did porn back in the day, and said her porn name. And I went straight to the nearest porn site, typed in Buck Angel, and saw Buck get pounded out by a chick that had a big old dildo on. That motherfucker was big. I said, damn. But yeah. Buck is XX chromosomes. I seen it. And this too before I get started. I watch porn. That's why I didn't have to be like, what's the name of a porn site I could go to? No. I got them right here on speed dial. And let me say this. What I saw, that's not something that I could get into. Somebody with a vagina, but, got the beard and the muscles and the tattoos and all that. I mean, the visual alone was, I don't know what it feels like to be a gay man. But what I was feeling seeing that, it had to be close. That felt strange. That felt strange looking at that. I can't say I felt gay, but I felt something. I mean, the optics alone. And it was 2 females I was looking at. So it can't be me being gay for watching it. Because it was 2 females. But I felt something. I just won't, I just won't be looking at nothing like that ever again. If a situation like this happens again, I'll just take people's word for it because I don't want to see nothing like that no more. And later I'll tell you why I bothered to even tell y'all what I saw.
They make me gay, don't it? Yep.
But anyway, the problem I have with Buck is the same problem I have with Blair White, which is the same problem that I have with Ariel Scarcella and other people like those three. And there's a bunch of them, but Buck is going to be the catalyst in this commentary. Buck is going to be the spotlight. But you have one person that is female but hates being female, so she pretends to be male. Then the other one is a male but hates being male, so he pretends to be a female. And the other one is a female that doesn't want anything to do with males at all. And here's my problem with people like these when it comes to the insurgents of this LGBTQIA movement. My problem with people like these three is that Buck and the others' position on it is,
can you describe the perpetrator to me, ma'am?
Yo, he looked like a man.
it's these men. Whatever is going on, it's these men, sexist misogyny, these men. Males and females, sports, males and females, bathrooms, whatever it is, their conclusion is these men, toxic masculinity, these men, misogyny. Buck, Blair, and Ariella, they do good work attacking their own, though. They do good work attacking their own LGBTQIA code. But the misandry is prevalent in them. The misandry is very prevalent in them. Misandry means the disdain for males, like misogyny is the disdain for females. And there are several deceptions going on here with this interplanetary war between the LGB versus the TQIA. Yeah, whoever don't know, the LGB and the TQIA have taken sides. Yeah, they've taken sides. But how I see it, it's like Lord of the Flies, though. Like in Lord of the Flies, they all arrived on that island together, then split. But the LGB doesn't want people to remember that. They want people to forget it, and they're doing it by blaming
She gonna keep saying trans
for everything, as if the LGB wasn't there with the TQIA. But like I just said, I say that they were all on that same boat together to arrive on that island, just like in the Lord of the Flies, then split. Now they're at war. And Buck and the others, they try to use their dissent to make it appear as if their LGB had nothing to do with the boys can menstruate stuff, or it's okay for a grown-ass man to crush bones in a woman's body like this grown-ass man.
And reversals by both fighters.
These girls are getting right into it. Fox delivering the knees, and that's it. Fallon Fox. Holy cow. Game over.
Wow.
And a quick finish to our first women's $20,000 championship tournament fight.
Your winner by knockout, Fallon Queen Swords Fox.
How you feeling right now?
I'm feeling excellent. That was sweet, huh? Did you like that? Yeah! And I want to tell everyone else, I'm coming in this tournament. Every woman in this tournament better look out. I'm freaking coming.
You heard it here, everybody. Fallon Fox coming for you in the ladies tournament, advancing to the next round. Let's give it up one more time for Fallon Fox!
Listen, a few people speaking against this stuff does not mean that the LGB isn't part of it. No, it don't mean that. It just means a few of you supposedly disagree. And I have more than a few reasons why I say supposedly disagree. And one of those reasons being is that this distaste Buck and the others expressed against these men, it's not sincere. It's not genuine. It's personal. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Maybe. But when I did the video referring to Buck as BA, I said that she uploaded something that day that I described as the straw that broke the camel's back. Broke the camel's back because she's done it many times before that. But that time was the most blatant I've ever seen from her. And let me show you what she did, but I'll show it to you in steps though. And on T, it means testosterone.
So, this is my voice one day on T.
So this is what my voice sounds like now. I was on T for about 6 to 7 months.
Hi, I'm Crowley, and this is my voice 1 week on T. 2 weeks on T. 3 weeks on eating the stuff in fireworks. 1 month on the elixir of man.
My name is Flynn. This is my voice. Day 0 on testosterone. Ah! Sorry, that was loud. Actually, you know what? That's a good idea. I want to see how my screams change.
My name is River, and this is me after just injecting my first shot.
My voice 1 month on T. Hi, I'm 6, and this is my voice 2 months on T.
That one called it man juice. I think there was another one calling it some other kind of man stuff. Do you see the attitude? It's very sort of like, woohoo, I'm on testosterone. And if they only knew and understood.
Okay, that's Buck complaining about kids being targeted by these Dr. Frankensteins. Then in the same video, she goes in on these surgeries. And by the way, these are all females in this video.
This person has no nipples. What? How is that even legal to do to a young person? These people look so young.
I feel really emotional, like starting this video and admitting to the fact I'm going to try to reduce the size of my scars. They're mine. They're part of my story. I just wish they were a little bit less
they're mine.
They were a little bit less red and a little bit less.
You see that? They're mine. They're part of my story. Okay, so I want you to remember that. Okay, because I'm going to show you a couple more. So this one actually, look at the buckling there, and they called it zipper scar. So, you know, really. Okay, so now really why I wanted you to remember this, it's part of my story.
Buck played a lot more examples in her video than the few I just showed, and I'll have the video in the description box, and I'm going to call it The Camel's Back. Now in this next clip, Buck is going to have somebody on the screen, but never mind the optics, and never mind Buck calling her him, because the person is a woman. The one that's sitting on the stool.
They called it zipper scar. So, you know, really. Okay, so now really why I wanted you to remember this, it's part of my story, because this person right here is one of the biggest trans male influencers, okay? He's very much about all the things I'm literally against, okay? And he's an adult and he chooses to do all this, it's fine. But what he chooses to also do that I disagree and push against him is that he chooses to indoctrinate these young kids into this space saying that this is the life-saving, this is great. But listen to this, and this is very important. I want you to hear what he has to say.
I've loved my chest scar. My chest scar is a really, really important part of my body. It's my story, my history written in gold across my chest. I've had so many people give me unsolicited advice about the scars over the years. You should put vitamin E oil on it to make it go down. You can get surgery and lasers can make it look less red. You can do this and that and the other. Never have I ever solicited this because I've never wanted to change. I don't want it to fade. And I'm very grateful for all of the power it reminds me that I have and that my body has.
That guy is very instrumental in creating this language, okay? See, he said all that language. Now all these young people are saying that language. He doesn't want to get rid of his scars. He wants to have his scars. So he wants to identify as a trans person. So when he takes his top off and he has these massive scars, everyone knows he's trans.
You had a woman sitting on the stool who you said is influencing these girls. And even though you can clearly see that females are involved in this trans craze that you complain about, you still come to the conclusion that it's these men, misogyny, these men, deflecting to cover up females' role in this mess. The misandry wants you to think that it's just males that are the problem.
And you don't want to live being a female? You want to live being a male? Or do you want to be a trans person? All of these people, in my opinion, want to be trans people, and they are creating a new breed. And it's sort of it is actual body modification. This dude right here is one of the leaders in creating a body modification trans movement.
By the way, I put triangles on you.
My doctor had to make triangles out of my chest.
He's crying.
And I just wish he told me that ahead of time, because I definitely wasn't prepared for it. And with going into double incision, I anticipated the classic straight on scar and nothing else.
And that was not planned, not anticipated. I didn't know at all that this was even a possibility. And when I asked him for articles explaining what the fuck this method is or anything of that sort, he didn't provide anything. So we think maybe he wanted revision money because he immediately was like, well, you know, in 6 months we can get you in, whatever.
And then my surgeon tried to explain to me that it was for a safety reason and whatnot.
Safety.
But my friend over here is very convinced that was not safety.
So this guy has been doing this whole thing about his botched top surgery and how the surgeon just made these crazy things on there. And then the surgeon made it that he had to do these that's what these new top surgery people are doing. They are doing these surgeries, first off, because they're fast and they can get 5 people in one day, and they have no desire to create. You know, I remember when plastic surgeons actually stood by their work and they wanted to create these beautiful surgeries where nobody could tell you had these situations. You know, a lot, if you look at this, the difference between trans male surgery and trans female surgery, the trans women, they don't have these scars. How come they don't have all these scars and these botched things going on? How come it's all coming from the trans man space, females, okay, getting these surgeries? Do you all notice that? The trans women don't have any of this stuff going on. It's very bizarre to me on some level, and I'm going to, again, call it a misogynistic movement. Do these surgeons actually care about these young girls?
And that too, how Buck blatantly lied about how dudes who get these surgeries don't have those problems. Even though you can put into your search engine something like trans woman botched surgery, or trans girl, you know, boys who get these surgeries too. Put trans girl surgery gone wrong and see the countless amount of videos that will pop up with people telling these horror stories that males go through. And look, a big part of the misandrist movement that often sees themselves as feminists is that they brainwash females into thinking that we men and boys live this privileged existence, where the world is handed to us on a silver platter, where we live a carefree, worry-free reality. They make females think that something is missing from their lives just because they're female and that we have it all. This is part of where that hate for men and boys comes from. Buck spoke like there are not female Dr. Frankensteins too that botch these surgeries on men and women and boys and girls. Women do it too. There are female Dr. Frankensteins who do this stuff. These pro-women people act like the world revolves around them. It's me, me, me. And that they're female, and that females are the center of the universe. And it's way more than just Buck and the others I mentioned. So Buck is just the featured representative of the problem. Buck is going to be representative of they, them. You know those crazy pronouns they be using. Buck is they, them. But blaming men, it's these men, it's misogyny, it's these men, it's sexist, it's the patriarchy, these men. When it comes to the things that Buck and them complain about, like the invasion of bathrooms and the invasion of these trans males in sports and winning scholarships meant for young females and winning Women of the Year awards and being crowned prom queen, the title designed for girls. I've talked about what could have stopped it a long time ago. I've talked about it a few times over the years, and here's a recent example that happened maybe 2 weeks ago.
This female fencer took a stand, or rather a knee, in protest when she refused to compete against a biological male, i.e. a transgender.
So we see you take a knee, and then the official comes over. What did you say to the official at that point?
Initially, I told them that I was refusing defense because this person is a man and I am a woman, and this is a women's tournament, and I refuse defense on principle.
So we see your opponent comes over. What did you say to your opponent at that point?
My opponent was a little bit confused, thinking that I was maybe hurt. And I said, no, I am refusing to fence you because I'm a woman and you are a man. I have much love and respect for you, but I will not compete against you. His response was, okay, but there's a member of the board of directors here and he supports me. There's a policy that says that I'm a woman and I'm allowed to compete in the women's tournament. And if you do this, you're going to get black carded. And I said, I know.
As a result, the female fencer received a black card and was disqualified from the event.
This invasion of female places is not men's fault, nor is it the fault of boys. What I've said in the past, and I'm going to say again, what I've said is that females, women and girls, need to quit. Quit. Sit it out. Or in this case, take a knee. Females could have deaded this invasion years ago. And because they didn't, it's these men. Sexist misogyny, patriarchy is these men. Again, to hide the female's role in this mess. You see, these invaders don't want their own bathrooms. They want yours. Yours meaning females. They don't want their own trans prom queen crown. They want yours. They don't want their own swim team or whatever. They want yours. So quit. Because they don't want to be with themselves. Sit it out. Take a knee. And they'll be forced to stand there by themselves looking stupid. Sit it out. Do that, then they'll stop. And a few incidences have occurred where girls will refuse to play. A couple of women have refused, but they get punished severely. Why? Because they have no support. It's easy to punish you when it's just you. But the biggest demographic on the planet, females, just stand by and watch them get punished. Blair and the others, they hide females' role in this mess by way of saying, these men, misogyny, these men. That's another one of the deceptions in these people who are supposedly against this gender craze. Again, the handful of women or handful of girls that have dared to take a stand or take a knee, they are left all alone are the biggest dynamic on the planet. Women, girls, females. They leave them to fend for themselves. But it's these men. No, it's not. Females could have ended this stuff a long time ago. Now, this photo is back when Obama was president. And there's a dude on YouTube named the Prince of Sheba. Most people call him Stephen. And he used this picture as the thumbnail for one of his videos, but his picture had some text on it. Now, I don't know if he wrote it or he found it on the internet somewhere, Google Images or something, I don't know, but he used it. And the text reads, "The leader of our nation meeting Barack Obama." Stephen identifies with the LGBTQIA movement. Let me read it again. The leader of our nation meeting Barack Obama. And when I saw it, I said to myself, that was good. So good I had to read it twice when I saw it. Yeah, I had to ponder on it a bit because I didn't catch it the first time. You know, because I'm slow sometimes. The leader of his nation, the LGBTQIA. Now, why would Stephen use that? I'm guessing because he knows about the immeasurable amount of contributions that Beyonce has made to the LGBTQIA. And Beyonce is a woman, not a trans woman, or in other words, a man. No, she's female.
We on this side of the aisle have always been ready to do what is right by the American people. Instead, what you can continue to do is go after the most vulnerable in our country. The fact that you just sat up there and somehow figured out how to tie trans folk to your argument makes no sense to me. But let me tell you something. Trans people ain't going nowhere. Just like when the racists wanted to make sure that black people somehow were going to be dismissed in this country, we ain't left either.
But Blair White and Ariel don't want people to take finance into account. They just want you to see men get naked in front of women and little girls in these gyms and other places. They don't want the big money it takes to finance this movement to be noticed. The LGBTQIA, these people are heavily financed and big time. They got big time donators who are women.
I mean the man who robbed this place today.
Okay.
What did he look like?
Yeah, okay. He looked like a man.
Now, the sum of its parts. The sum of its parts means that without everything working together, nothing will work at all. Because you need all of the parts. Like this monstrosity here. And man, I would just love to sit behind the wheel of something like this and just drive it around for the, you know, I wouldn't even need to drive it. Just let me sit in it and start it up. Yeah, just start it. I could just start it just so I can feel it. Feel the power. But the sum of its parts, without a carburetor, it'd just be a big pile of metal just sitting there. Without a battery, it just sits there and collects rust. Without an ignition switch, I couldn't even start it. The sum of its parts, these men, are just a part. And women like Beyonce are other parts. The LGBTQIA has many working parts. Not just these men, it's misogyny, these men, the patriarchy, these men.
Thank you, Senator Coons. We're voting on the floor, so we're trying to do both things. Senator Hawley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. Before, I want to visit with you, Ms. Mensky, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist.
I'm denying that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So
pregnant.
you are denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you? Absolutely. Or are they also treated like this, where
No,
they're told that they're opening up people to violence?
We have a good time in my class. You should join.
I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow.
That's a woman defending all of the things that Ariel and the others complained about. And she's not trans either. And there are plenty of females like her. So it's not just the scapegoat that Buck and the others use trans people as. Yeah, trans are being scapegoated here. The LGB has been here pushing this stuff as well. Not just the trans TQIA part. Tim Walz, remember him? Tim Walz, a man who had tampons installed in boys' bathrooms. You see, because, boys are under attack as well.
So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
Does he keep going?
Does she need to for you to understand that?
I would love a little bit more context right here because, I mean, look, how did I learn to read when I was growing up? I read the backs of condoms. It was just on the back.
Yeah,
I read it right
smart.
there. You know,
Is this the same thing, or what is this, Rob?
No, this is
And
a
look at me
separate.
now.
This is a separate interview from the week earlier where she continues to make the argument, or has been making the argument for tampons in boys' bathrooms.
Let's hear what this one is. Okay, so Adam, this one's dedicated to you.
Yeah, perfect.
What else do we need in schools? And as we listened, people were having trouble accessing feminine products. And so Tim made those available in schools. I think that makes sense. I'm focused on learning. So is Tim. So is our legislature. And so we said, you know, if this is something that distracts from learning, well, then we're going to take care of that. Why wouldn't we? Because we're interested in students learning and not being distracted by other things.
Watch how disconnected the vice president's wife just said this. Okay? The vice presidential nominee,
Tim Walz's wife.
Tim Walz's wife just said this about why they allow tampons in male bathrooms. You tell me if this connects with you. This is potentially the VP's wife, soon to be. She's trying to make sense of her argument. Are you buying her argument? Go ahead, Rob.
You know, if kids are hungry in school, what that does to brain and learning, you're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
What the hell does that even mean?
But by the way, play that one more time. Like
it's not even registering.
Listen, I have 4 kids, and they've made some arguments that they try to really
I tried to do my homework.
stretch and spin. Is there a greater spin job than Rob? Play that one more time, by the way. It's a little painful, but play it.
What that does to brain and learning, you're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
And there was his wife trying to explain away why he did it. Said putting tampons in bathrooms will help boys learn better. And guess what? His wife is a woman, not these men. She's female and not trans. Buck and the others there have spoken highly of Riley Gaines, pushing back against this trans demonology. But remember this?
Former elite college swimmer says that she was ambushed and physically hit by trans rights protesters after speaking at San Francisco State University. Riley Gaines posted video on Twitter last night saying she was confronted by a trans rights activist. Gaines is a former competitor of controversial trans swimmer Leah Thomas. Gaines says police escorted her to safety and that she was forced to barricade for 3 hours in a classroom. The university says police did not make any arrests, but that it is conducting an investigation. The attack happened after Gaines spoke last night to students at a Turning Point USA event at SF State. She says she is not against transgender athletes competing, but believes they have an unfair advantage in women's athletics, and there should be more dialogue about how to make athletics more inclusive.
The motion to delete.
But there's one more piece I want to touch on. I know I mentioned I got nominated for NCAA Woman of the Year. And so they had a big convention where you go, they honor you, they name their Woman of the Year. And so I went to this convention. It was in January. It was in San Antonio. And so I go to the convention, obviously not in support because the award was immediately meaningless.
Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights! Push it down. Push it down. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights.
Yeah, you fucking transphobic bitch. I fucking see you.
And that's a woman that was in Riley's face like that. There was a lot of women there. But that one that was all up in her face like that, called her a transphobic bitch, that's a woman. And not trans either. A woman was the loudest one in the room. Not these men. It's misogyny. These men, the patriarchy, sexism. These men.
Okay, but what does his face look like?
Yeah, everything. I tell you. Everything.
Yes, I understand that, but I need you to describe the man who was here earlier.
Okay, man, he before.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
He looked like a man.
The sum of its parts. Remember Darrell Brooks? The one who drove his truck through a crowd of people? Killed a couple of them, too. Well, Buck and the others, by way of these men, these men, Buck and the others, they want for people to believe that this truck, meaning these men, barreled through all of those people at this parade without a driver and a steering wheel, meaning women. These men trans was staring and powering itself through those people, through their bathrooms, through their female sports, through their Women of the Year awards too, without a driver and a steering wheel. That's the deception that Blair, Buck, and Ariel wants you to fall for. These men.
What? Stay away from me. Please. Don't hurt me. I'm very confused.
Another thing that people like Buck complain about are these men being housed in females' jails and prisons. But the sum of its parts.
I've got to ask you about this radical gender bill that's passed in Scotland. It seems to be causing all sorts of chaos. We saw a double rapist housed with vulnerable women in a women's prison after he was convicted. He quite late in proceedings, he decided he was a woman. But now Nicola Sturgeon is saying that trans women are women always, except if they commit a crime. See if you can keep up with this.
My question is, are all trans women women? You haven't answered that question.
Well, that's not the point that we're dealing with
That's
here.
the question I'm asking.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is circumstances in which a trans woman will be housed in the male prison estate.
Is there any context in which a woman born as a woman will be housed in the male estate?
Look, we're talking here about trans women.
And I'm now asking about women born as women.
I don't think there are circumstances there, but...
So it's different for trans women?
Well, yes, and I'm not...
So they're not equal?
High power position right there. That was former Prime Minister of Scotland being questioned about okaying males being housed with females. And she's not these men. And she's not trans either. Laws are being put on the books by women. So this hasn't been a case of just these men just barging up in females' bathrooms without support.
Now to the US, where actress Drew Barrymore, who has a talk show now, has been roundly mocked for her cringeworthy fawning over famous, or should that be infamous, trans activist Dylan Mulvaney.
Do you want to know, ironically, who dislikes me the most sometimes?
Who?
Myself.
Oh, me too. Oh.
Got on her knees for him. But it's these men, they say. The biggest support that they get are from females. The sum of its parts. And I've seen time and time again where if somebody say something to any of these men, females will be the first ones to get in your face about it.
Come on, man. Look at this young Negro right here, man, over here looking like a damn 14-year-old girl, man. Stop it, man. That's a damn shame, man. And then you got two girls with them hyping them up. That's the problem with our women right there. They talk about they want a good man, but they hype up niggas being homosexuality, man. That don't make any damn sense. Bring your little ass across the track. I know. We calling our asses out.
They have big support from females. Big support. Even when it comes to dudes just being gay, not necessarily an activist type. Man or boy, they don't hang around us. Heterosexual dudes, they don't hang around us. They know better, so they hang with the females. And we all remember when we was in school, it was always that one gay boy who hung with the girls, not the boys. They didn't hang around us, they hung with the girls. Men too. When they get grown, if they hanging around with people, it's gonna be with either other gay men or with women. Because women are more likely gonna be supportive, not these men. Now these next few clips are clips I played maybe 3 years ago. May even be 4 years at this point, about to do it again. The LGBTQIA has branches, sleeper cells I'll call them, that are located across the globe. And females are in administrative positions in these cells. Administrative, organizing, the sum of its parts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Beck. I live in Baltimore City, and I am a lesbian. You might be thinking to yourself, why is a lesbian speaking at the Heritage Foundation? And I ask myself the same thing. But my answer is pretty simple. There is no place for me. I am politically homeless. So believe me when I say I am grateful for the opportunity to share my story.
But I don't think that takes away anything from the force and the power behind her ideas. So that was the first really radical text that I read. I was given that text by two lesbians in Baltimore, Maryland. And we were just friends. We would hang out. They would have parties, dinners at their place. The interesting thing was that it was only women who came over, but almost none of the women called themselves lesbians. And so I was coming out thinking about maybe calling myself a lesbian. I first started with bisexual and then eased into it. But looking back now, I think, wow, I was given this wonderful text in the company of women who were participating in our own erasure. That's a little bit twisted, but I am very grateful for them anyway. It was a fantastic company to be in.
That's Julia Beck with the Heritage Foundation, but only because her LGB turned on her. And she only had a problem with them when they feasted their eyes on her as part of the problem. Meanwhile, she was fine with her group targeting men and boys as the problem. She said women are helping to erase women. And I'm going to have that interview in the description box, and I'm going to call it They Hurt Her Feelings.
And I guess that's where it all started.
Wow. So, okay. So what were they calling themselves then if they weren't calling themselves lesbian?
It would be non-binary. That was a really popular one. There were a few gender fluids. That's really fallen out of style, I notice. No one really is gender fluid these days.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Non-binary is popular. I think that was the main one. There was a non-man. There was a trans man that I remember. I don't remember so much specifics because at the same time, it wasn't so important. There was not such a heavy meaning placed onto these words in the same way that I think is placed on them today, at least online. So I'm really not sure what exactly the words were, but no, unfortunately, lesbian was not one of them.
And what year was this? Like
this would be 2015, 2016. Around 2017, I had a more radical group of friends, and it would be the same kind of thing: dinners, meetups. Let's get together and let's talk about how to burn it all down. but we were all lesbians and we all called ourselves some kind of feminist, mostly radical feminist. And that was really a wonderful blossoming of friends and community. And we organized things together. We did actions together. We vandalized things together, and that was amazing and fantastic. And that really gave me a lot of strength. It made me think that I could do something more meaningful than just, going out at 3 a.m. with a marker.
So what was that more meaningful thing? What do you mean?
Well, I had started to volunteer with a feminist podcast called Women's Liberation Radio News. They're still going strong after how many years? It's incredible. Props to WLRN. I was working with them and doing interviews as similar as you're doing now. I think my first interview was with Julie Bindel and my microphone wasn't working and I was so ashamed. So I was doing that and I was working with Wolf, Women's Liberation Front also, writing a little bit of testimony here and there, reviewing some bills and things like that. But it was all behind the scenes. I wanted to have a more impactful thing that I could be doing. And I thought, well, here's an opportunity. The Baltimore mayor at that time wanted to set up a commission. It would be for LGBTQ people, and the people on that commission would be helping to identify issues or problems to solve within the city for this community. And so I thought, why not? I joined the commission and it broke into committees. It's so bureaucratic. But I was on the Law and Policy Committee. And so the people on my group were directly reviewing laws and policies, for example, from the police department. That didn't go so well in the end because they ousted me because I was transphobic. There was this guy who came in. He, at the time, was the president of the Baltimore Transgender Alliance, and he accused me of transphobia, even though he wasn't part of the whole thing. Suddenly, he's there at one of our meetings and shaking my hand, and I'm thinking, this is the time that I'm going now. And that's exactly what happened. He since has detransitioned, which is interesting. Oh, wow. I wrote about this for 4W Pub. You can read about it there. I think also Redux wrote an article about this too. This guy stuffed his bra for a few years, got me kicked out of the commission, took my place, and now he's calling himself a man again. So,
She's talking about the administrative and organizational sum of the part that she was part of. You see, because they just want you to see these boys, they just want you to see that these boys have gained access to girls' bathrooms, but they don't want you to see the administrative part of it.
Yeah.
That's really wild. I mean, to be just surrounded in a witch hunt, like in a witch trial, men impersonating women, telling you that you're transphobic for not pretending that they're women. I mean, it's totally nuts. I mean, gosh, it's totally nuts. Wow.
One of the craziest things that happened at that evening was one of these women who had undergone a complete hysterectomy, bilateral mastectomy, the whole 9 yards. I don't think she had a phalloplasty, but that's not my business anyway. She shared that her vulva is male. It's a man. It's masculine. She used these words. She's like, I'm a man, I'm male. My vulva is a man, it's male, something like this. And I just thought, where am I? Did I go through the looking glass? This cannot be real. Yeah, and it really, to see this woman defending her ideology as if she would be defending herself was at the same time shocking and also scary. Like, this is how far people can go to defend some kind of belief that they have united with their sense of self so deeply that any challenge to it is a challenge to them as a person.
The mindset of these people is self-centered. Like the world is all about women and girls, but they don't like how it looks when other groups are that same way. Now hear more from the mindset of these people who are supposedly pushing back against this trans craze.
Like, this is how far people can go to defend some kind of belief that they have united with their sense of self so deeply that any challenge to it is a challenge to them as a person. It's nuts. And I hope that, I don't know, I hope that people like this can really wake up slowly but surely. It's a rude awakening, I know, but gotta wake up, sister.
I wonder what happened to her. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I hope she's okay. I hope
Yeah.
she's better now and healthy. But we know what happens to these people who take like synthetic hormones and shit like that. The health just deteriorates rapidly. And I don't wish that for any woman.
Yeah.
Men, okay, do what you want. But women, please stop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Men shouldn't also have their health to deteriorate. But I really don't care about men. They're the ones that got us here in the first place.
Right there. The misandry. To hell with men, she said. And that's the attitude that these people have, but they don't like it when that same attitude is coming from the other side that they call misogyny or incelism.
My grandmother couldn't open her own bank account. Think about how difficult it must have been for lesbians to be independent. So I like the idea of separatism, but it's difficult. And I think lesbians are trying really hard on many levels. Of course, heterosexual women are also trying this, and bisexual women too. But I think when we talk about lesbians, it's a very specific separatism on the basis of sex as an act, not just as a biological fact, but sex as an act. This is the kind of separatism that I find really revolutionary because it's the basis of our oppressed state as women. So if we can get the men out of our heads, we can get them out of our beds. That's, a few steps toward female liberation from male supremacy.
So I think, my listeners are definitely, I would say predominantly heterosexual women, mothers, who are like, how do I hold both? Like, how do I, how can I practice a women loving living or kind of a parts of the separatist philosophy, but like still be like in love with this man and have this man be the father of my children, and in the current socio kind of political circumstances that we find ourselves in. So
I don't know.
So do you consider yourself you're not a lesbian separatist, right? You're not like living on woman's land, or how do you make that, distinction when you mentioned like burning it all down? I assume you're talking about the patriarchy, not the city of Baltimore.
No.
Would you talk a little bit about like your political affiliations or beliefs and how they intersect with Arad feminalysis?
I love the idea of separatism. Love it. Love it. I wish for all women to try to practice this in any way that they can. The concept of separatism is very easy. It's a simple idea and easy to understand. Women just live with each other. No men around. Men are not even a concept to be considered.
No men around. Men and boys are the enemy. And that's the spirit that these people are coming in. And let's see that spirit in Buck Angel. And what you're about to hear is why the female wasn't in handcuffs, but the two males were, and they were made to sit on the ground with their legs crossed and their hands behind their back.
Because you see what's happening now. When people start to say, I'm really a woman, I'm not a man, and they're in prison, okay? And this is a very sore subject for some people, but I'm gonna fucking say it because I don't fucking care. So when a biological man who is in prison and all of a sudden says, I've decided I'm trans and I'm a woman, and nobody can push back on this person. They don't get any mental health care. They don't get any kind of way to say, well, wait, is this person actually trans, or are they manipulating the system? And as we know, they're fucking manipulating the system. Now, there are most definitely trans women in prison, but there's a lot more that are not trans that are co-opting our space in order to what? Get into women's space. Because who the fuck wants to be in men's prison? Have you ever been there? It's scary. Those people are animals. Men are animals. They are. They're fucking animals. Women prison isn't like that. I mean, of course there's some brawling and all of that, but it's a whole other space. It's not the same. But you see what I mean with self-ID?
Men are animals. And the lie she told. Listen. Females are in jail for stealing, rape, robbery, murder, child abuse, and the rest, just like the men are. But Buck says women are not like that. Which is why that lady got to stand there with her arms folded, even though she was pulled out of that car with those males too, and was driving the car. In these jails, women sexually assault each other, extort each other, beat each other, steal from each other, and all the rest. But no, it's these men.
Morning, babes and babe lovers. So today's topic is non-binary, and as a member of the LGBT community, this comes up in conversations an awful lot, and I have never fully expressed what I think of non-binary, if it's even a thing, if it isn't a thing. First of all, I don't think that anyone in the non-binary community even can fully explain what non-binary is. It seems like it's this made-up term that anybody can use for whatever reason they want. Yes, I am filming this on a different day because apparently I had a lot more to say than originally anticipated. One of the most important questions I have currently regarding non-binary is, why does being non-binary mean the erasure of female characteristics? Let me explain. Why is it that almost every single female-born person that calls themselves non-binary either goes on HRT, testosterone, or at least gets a double mastectomy, top surgery? When people who are born male identify as non-binary, usually only just change their gender expression, meaning they wear different clothes, they change their hair, they wear makeup. How often do you see someone that's male that identifies as non-binary getting boobs, getting a boob job, or going on HRT? Why does one sex feel like they have to make physical changes but the other doesn't? Let me explain. Why is it that almost every single female person...
Never mind her saying almost every female person. Never mind that, because almost every female person means it's just women being targeted, in her mind. So I'll just say almost every female person, so people don't notice that I'm biased and tunnel-visioned and self-centered. I need to be able to label males as the problem, so I'll just say almost every female person.
My friend Chad said this really well, I think. Men are taught to decorate their bodies if they wish to express themselves outside of gender norms. Women must bind, hide, disguise, or physically remove their femaleness in order to accomplish the same. I think this really all comes down to, how does one express being neither gender or neither sex? Is the presence of breasts much more obvious as a gender marker than the absence of them? Why are males that identify as non-binary only adding to themselves while females are removing parts of themselves? To me, that suggests that the male body type is the default gender.
And the title of that video is Non-Binary is Confusing at Best and Sexist at Worst. Or in other words, these men. The erasure of female characteristics, Ariel said. Or in other words, the world is all about them. And who is them? Women. And remember I played this a few years ago? The kind of people that I'm talking about, it's like they cannot see that there is a boy under attack here. Even though it's staring them right in the face, but all they can see is that females are being targeted or erased. There is a boy here. Men, same thing. Our image is under siege as well. This is a man. Saucy Santana, but the conclusion that Buck and the others come to is that women are under attack. Are women under attack? Hell yeah, shit yeah, girls too, no doubt. But men and boys are under attack too. Femininity and masculinity is on the menu.
Morning, babes and babe lovers. So today's topic is non-binary, and as a member of the LGBT community, this comes up.
Now, you just heard Ariel say that she is part of the rainbow. The others say that too, Buck, Blair, and the others who attack the LGBTQIA. And they all do a good job exposing the Luciferianism in this cult. Even Ty Rivera. Some of y'all know Ty.
What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, today...
Even Ty exposes the evil in the cult, but he says he's part of it. He says he's part of it, and they try to use their exposing the evil in it to suggest that what they're part of has nothing to do with it. And I call bullshit. I call bullshit because they, because just because they disagree with some things does not mean that your movement isn't doing the things that you're exposing. That's bullshit. Bullshit. Now this other thing that Ariel and the others like to say. What they'll do is they'll say things like, you don't see women trying to get into men's spaces. You don't see girls trying to be in boys' spaces. That's bullshit. Bullshit. And they try to make it out to mean that females are just these respectful beings that wouldn't dare try to intrude upon male spaces. That's a lie.
Boy Scouts of America changing their name after more than 100 years of history. The organisation is now going to allow girls to join it. The word boy set to be dropped. Good idea or bad? Let's talk to political activist Kate Smith, and also legal and media analyst Lionel. Hi guys, thanks for your time today. Let's chat about this for a few minutes. I'm going to throw you this bone first, if I may, Lionel. It's political correctness gone mad. Surely Boy Scouts are for boys and Girl Scouts are for girls, or should it be that way?
This is one of the most insane moments in the history of the human species. There is not anyone, other than a few, I guess, theoretical academicians perhaps, or some SJW or somebody who thinks this is a good idea. This is insane. And by the way, Scouts, BSA, what do you think the BSA is? It's like here in the States, KFC. We know what it is. This goes to show you how there was an absolute determined effort to destroy whatever was left of this thing called gender. It's now considered almost like racist or inappropriate to do anything to distinguish boys from girls. And it is over with. This is the most stupid thing I've heard in I don't know how long, but I'm sure it'll be topped very shortly.
I don't think you think the same way about this, Kate Smurthwaite. What's your view? Good idea or bad? People should be made to feel comfortable. If they want to join it, why not?
Well, it's a really interesting situation. Actually, if you look at the kind of science of it, where do young people do best? It turns out, perhaps surprisingly, perhaps unsurprisingly, that girls seem to thrive better in single-sex environments for things like that, but boys actually seem to thrive better in mixed environments. It seems like having some girls join in maybe takes away some of the sort of laddie culture, if you like. It's not entirely clear why these things are true. Personally, I think there's a lot to be said for giving girls a kind of space of their own. We know that there are differences in the kind of, for example, the kind of role models that boys and girls are exposed to. So when we do get mixed gender groups, what can often happen is that the boys have more confidence, they've been brought up on action heroes, and the girls can get sidelined a bit. So I guess I have a lot of sympathy with the Girl Scouts organisation who are saying, hey, you know, this has worked well for us in the past. I mean, what I don't want, of course, is, you know, for the Girl Scouts all to do sewing and knitting and the boys to get to climb mountains. I mean, I think that is very much an outdated construct. I think we all know that there are plenty of girls who'd like to climb mountains, but for me, I'm not sure that the perfect perfect solution is just to put them in the boys' club. I think what we should be doing, yeah, of course, ultimately, is working towards a culture, you know, where we don't need to separate groups. But in the meantime, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with giving the girls their own space, you know, and making sure that they have a chance to thrive and they have a chance to be the leaders of that, rather than putting them in a mixed group where they're at risk of being, you know, treated as a secondary group within that.
So what about the boys, as Lionel's saying?
What about the boys?
What about the boys? Yeah, that's a good question. What about the boys? That was Lionel Nation questioning the Dingle Bell who helped Boy Scouts accept girls into their organization, even though they already had the Girl Scouts of America. And I can go on for days about how females have pushed their way into spaces meant for males, and they've even destroyed spaces meant for males. Like Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper program for boys, females destroyed that vision. No female reporters in men's locker rooms. Females cried about it, and now there are female reporters in men's locker rooms all over the place. And I could go on all day with examples. I could just run the table with examples, like with this thing called passing.
Are you a closeted trans boy? Do you need help passing? Here are some tips from your trans big brother. I can't promise these will all help with your dysphoria, but maybe they'll ease it a little bit. So, if you can't cut your hair, you can always pull it back into a ponytail, flip it forward, and then put a beanie on. That way it looks like you have bangs. Baggy clothes are your best friend. Sweatshirts and baggy jeans hide almost everything. Curves, breasts, femininely shaped thighs, everything. If you're worried about there being a small bump where your chest is, keep in mind that it's normal to have a slight curve. Don't go for board flat, that's unrealistic. Do not bind with ace bandages, that's very dangerous, and don't do it. If you're in a position where you can't get a binder, there are some ways you can makeshift one with a tank top, and you can also use tights. There are some guides online, but be careful.
Those are females training women and girls on how to deceive people into thinking that they are a male, on how to be in males' bathrooms and go unnoticed. They call that passing, and other things they train females to pass in. And I can go all day, but they try to paint this false image of how females don't try to intrude upon male things, as if they respect us, but that's a lie. Now pretend I don't have no examples to the contrary.
Pat Manuel made history Saturday night as he became the first transgender male to box professionally. But the road to his debut match has been a very difficult one for Pat. The battle for Pat has been fighting outside the ring his whole life. Born biologically a female but feeling like a man, Pat felt like he was living a lie. Pat has always had a passion for boxing and fought as a female in the Olympic trials back in 2012. After that, Pat began his transition, which involved surgery and hormone treatments.
And so the reason that female, like I said, pretend that I don't have no examples to the contrary of this. The reasons that females don't intrude upon our things is because they know we'll beat their ass. It's not just because they're so respectful, it's because they know we'll beat their ass. Like this woman here.
Team 10 investigator Allison Ash is here with why the managers at the Macy's store in Mission Valley said there really wasn't much they could do about this.
Yeah, and you know, this victim says that he actually worked at a different Macy's store. So he was surprised when he reported the harassment, he says happened in the men's room, and security was nowhere to be found.
I think it was because I'm trans that he was harassing me in the bathroom.
His name is Invictus Animus, which in Latin means unconquerable soul. But the transgender man was rattled by what happened to him Thursday in this men's room on the second floor of Macy's Mission Valley. He was using the stall when
I realized out of my peripheral vision that I could see an eye looking at me, that feeling of being watched.
It soon became more than a feeling.
He actually grabbed hold of the top of the stall wall and peered up over it at me, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Animus decided to call him out.
I said, hello, in kind of this incredulous voice, like, what are you doing? This is incredibly inappropriate.
The man answered back.
And he got very excited. He was like, oh, this is a men's room. This is a men's room, a man's room, men's, man, men's. And he kept saying that over and over again. And it would have been funny if I weren't so scared.
Animus says the man persisted, and finally, when he left the bathroom, Animus washed up and walked out. There he was again.
And he said, "This is a men's room." And I said, "And I am a man, and you need to not harass people."
Something that happened to him, and they know this. They know that. That's why they don't try to get into male things. They'll get hurt, which is why females who play male football don't last very long. They'll get their block knocked off 1 or 2 good times and they quit. Why was that lady in the man's bathroom in the first place? I'm asking because females don't do that, right?
Our reporter in the field, Christy Lee, who is at the Austin Independent School District School, Das Elementary, where it's Pride Week. And we've played the videos of them marching children up and down the school hallways, waving gay flags, teaching kids how to be gay and have anal sex. It's a good thing. And so Christy Lee is on the scene there.
So it's really insane. But as many of our viewers probably saw, the documents that were basically guides to the teachers on how to approach this week, and a whole week. We really needed a whole entire week for this. But the guides, they originally said for the pre-K, as young as 4 years old, up to age 6, pre-K through 2, 6 or 7, it originally said respect privacy. What we say in this room stays in this room. Gosh, that sounds like something you would hear in Vegas. What happens here stays here. But now they're bringing that kind of philosophy straight into the elementary school. Now, apparently, because of the backlash, they have updated that. So it says what we say in this room stays in this room, but it's okay to tell your parents, which is contradictory to the first thing that you said. They also had these guidelines for grades 3 to 5. Please remember that we agreed to keep what happened in this circle confidential. So they're literally encouraging kids to have these conversations. Would you?
Oh, here we go. Somebody coming
in. We don't have any children on Facebook.
Somebody harassing you now?
Well, do you want to give a comment about your Pride Week and pushing the gender ideology on the children? Well, I mean, I'm looking right here at the guidelines, and apparently you updated this, but it says what we say in this room stays in this room. And then apparently you updated it to say that parents could be notified, like if you're giving the teachers permission to let the kids tell their parents what's going on. But I mean, this sounds like something that you would say in Vegas. Like, why are we doing this for kids as young as pre-K?
That is
first grade. So I did that. Apparently updated to say teacher will say okay to share with parents after backlash.
Community circle, which that is common practice every single day in our district, the schools in the country. And what that's meant for is more of when you're sharing in here, it's a place to be free, so you can share anything, whether it's a happy or a sad, or if you
share your private parts.
They just need to know that it's a safe space to share something.
Why are we encouraging children to talk about gender and sexual preference when they don't even know about that?
That is people reading into it. That we're not teaching about sex.
Is this a teacher,
Christy? Do you have a math week or a reading week?
We do math.
So we don't need a whole week, even though the math and the. Are you a teacher here?
I'm an assistant
principal.
Next week.
What do you think's going on behind you right now? As police have just pulled up.
I have a police officer approaching me right now. So, sir, what is the problem, Sergeant Sneed? That is the problem. This right here is the property. She was trying to accuse me of showing kids' faces. Do you see any kids around?
Hang on. Just wondering why you guys were on the property. When the media comes out here, okay, they have the right to out here, but they have to be on public property.
Okay, so you're saying if I step, where can I step?
Be on the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk.
Off the school property.
Something else that's complained about by the dissenters of the LGBTQIA is the without the parents' permission thing. And in the clip you just saw, there was a woman. Not trans, a woman. Not these men, a woman, facilitating the indoctrination of children into the devil worship known as the LGBTQIA. And doing it without the parents' permission. And whoever is listening, yeah, we're pretending that only female teachers do this because that's how it's supposed to be done, right? Where only one side of the coin is highlighted, right? Right.
People look at you today, 20 years later, and they still have no idea what you're about. Tell me in a sentence who you are.
You know what? If I were to come on here one day saying, you know what? Charles Manson shouldn't have been in jail. And if he was sent to jail, he most definitely shouldn't have been given a life sentence because he didn't murder that whole house full of people. It was those women that did it. And Charles was only the administrator. He only organized it. He was merely the facilitator. What if I came on here and said that? You would say that I lost my goddamn mind, wouldn't you? Yes, of course you would. But that is the mindset that I've been addressing here in this commentary. Where Ariel and the others don't want people to take into account the administrating, the organizing, the facilitating, and the money that's donated to this stuff.
Joining me now, as he does every Monday, is best-selling author and associate editor of The Spectator, Douglas Murray. Douglas, let's start in Manchester, where a group of trans activists, including a group of black-clad men in balaclavas, attacked a lone woman during a protest at the statue of a suffragette leader. This is like some sort of a movie. Have a look. Now, if that spectacle wasn't bad enough, Douglas.
That was a light version of women being attacked at these protests for women's rights. I'm not going to show the brutal versions where women are punched, knocked out, unconscious, and even group stomped by these men and women. Yeah, women be right there with them, either cheering them on or even joining in on the beatings of other women. And this comedian, I don't know which incidences she's been seeing, but she's talking about it.
And he was like, what do you do when you see a trans bitch beating up a regular bitch? And I was like, that I don't know. No, I don't have an answer for that.
She's seen what I'm talking about and even joked about it up there on stage. And guess what? She's not these men or
and trans.
She even proceeds to describe the value of these men.
Who do you think we are? We need these super bitches. Are you stupid? These are our X-Men. The world is about to change for us. Get fucking excited.
These men are enforcers, she said. But Buck and the others just wants for us to see the soldiers and not who sent them, who financed them, who are the administrations over them, who made their guns and who supplied them with ammunitions, and so on and so on. No, we're supposed to just see these men.
And I'm not saying that trans women aren't women. I'm not one of those corny ass trans women are women. Shut the fuck up. But
we interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I need to wait right here because I'm looking through the editor and this video is way too long and I still got a lot more to go, but I'm not going. No, I'm not going. I'm going to cut this off and maybe find some other videos down the road to fit the rest of this stuff in. And, you know, I pretty much made my point anyway. The points are over redundant at this point. It's like overkill. So I'm just going to go ahead on and end it.
Yeah. Hey.
Now, earlier, I told y'all about what I saw with Buck doing porn. And let me make one more side remark about that before I get into why I brought it up. What I saw, that wasn't like watching, say, two regular butch chicks get it in with each other or with a man. That was different. What I saw was strange. You know, with the biceps, the pectoral muscles, the mustache, the six-pack stomach, but had a vagina. That made a strange feeling come over me. And we won't be doing that ever again, watching something like that. But anyway, why I brought that up is because Buck think that she's not a female. Despite all of her declarations and proclamations insisting that she knows that she's not a man, and even rebuking men for thinking that they're women. Meanwhile, she does think she's a man. Buck tells these stories about when she was a kid, and when she tells these stories, she'll put up a picture of her when she was young. It's a picture of her looking maybe, 12 years old, and wearing what looks like could maybe be a soccer uniform. And she's on the field in this picture, soccer field, football field, I don't know. And she'll say that she used to be a little dyke girl. Her words, a little dyke girl. Buck says that she's no longer a lesbian.
A very sad thing, because I think I talked to all of you about how much community has meant to me in my life, and I think I said it on the last live where I said, I've lost communities through my growth as a human. And at one time I was part of the lesbian community, and I lost the lesbian community when I transitioned to live my life as a man, and 30 years ago. They didn't like it. They hated it. They called me all kinds of names. Basically, exactly what you see today was exactly what happened 30 years ago when I decided I was no longer a lesbian and I wanted to live my life as a man. Oh, they got so mad at me. Oh, you're such a bad person. You are going to the traitor. You are patriarchy. I'm like, what?
Newsflash, Buck. When you are a woman who likes women, you are a lesbian. Or in other words, still a little dyke girl. But you love to get on these men for telling themselves that they are female. And Buck loves to say that she transitioned. But if she knows that she's not a man, then what did she transition into? And the way I hear Buck pounding that point into the people she's responding to, you're not a woman, you're not a woman, you're not a woman. Telling them you will never be a woman. Meanwhile, she thinks that she's a man. It says a lot about somebody like that. It says many things. It says many things. One of those many things is Buck feels that it's okay for females to pretend, but not the males. Listen to how she thinks when she's thinking of people like herself.
And as somebody who really values community, I think community is extremely important. And I think community is how we'll move forward in all of this stuff. So, yay! So that being said, I want to be a happy tranny. I don't want to be an angry, mean tranny. I don't like what I see out there. And I think we need to have some more representation of people who are willing to have the conversation and who are willing to integrate. Okay, this is one of the huge things I really believe in. I believe in integrating into society. I do not believe that we need to be outside, or they need to be here, we need to be here, we need to be calling these people that. I think integrating as a transsexual person into the cisgender world and living within those worlds together as different kinds of people. That's how we coexist.
Coexist means that she leads people to believe that she's something that she's not. It means that she's in places designated for men, like men's bathrooms.
Lesbians, because I just told you why. I'm not going to change everybody's mind. You know how long I've been an activist in this community? 30 plus years. You're never going to change everyone's minds. You're not. You're not. But let me tell you this. The people who hate me respect me, just so you know. Why do they respect me, my friend? Because I have a conversation with them. And I actually tell them, I know you don't believe in this, and I know you think I'm still a woman. I completely understand that.
No, it's not what they think, Buck. You are still a woman. They know you're still a woman. It's not what they think. And if they're guessing that you're a woman, their guess is right, because, like I said, I've seen it. And my question is this: how pro-woman can you be when you hated being one? And this is why I try to tell people in these videos I do about this stuff that the number one rule is that if you find yourself engaging with these people, never expect for them to be honest. If you're engaging with them in a live discussion, on a comment board, or chat room, or even engaging just by listening, always expect deception. Expect anything else, and you're going to pay for it. Even the ones who make sense. Yeah, even the ones that are making sense. You got to watch out for them too. Buck, Blair, Ariel, and the others would be exposing the hell out of the wickedness in their code. And I rarely disagree with what they're saying, but still, something is wrong with them.
This female fencer took a stand, or rather a knee in protest, when she refused to compete against a biological male, i.e. a transgender.